Tonight, York Regional Police take a unique approach to discourage impaired driving.
Look, I love you. Yo.
It's their latest attempt to get the message across, hoping a little humor might do the trick. Plus, a teen is now facing 5 charges in connection with a shooting near Jane and Finch yesterday. And
if we've both said yes, I don't understand why you would want to prevent that.
a mother who's been writing to the man who received her son's heart hopes to meet him in person despite the laws preventing it. Good evening, I'm Talia Ricci. York Regional Police have released a video jokingly offering impaired drivers a personal ride-share service in the back of a cruiser. They also show snippets of people who actually got behind the wheel.
At Low-Tel, the York Regional Police, we pride ourselves on our ability to anticipate the unique needs of our guests.
Mind if you on your seat a little bit?
Slide back. We have to shut the door, okay?
Like this?
No, like sit up. Just move your butt back so your feet are in.
The video is their latest attempt to get through to the people who just don't get it. How dangerous and deadly driving while impaired can be, especially when there are other options.
Anybody saying to themselves, oh, there's cost associated with taking an Uber. Well, the cost associated to the consequences of the impaired driving, if you're caught, you're going to be losing your license. You're going to have to take transit every single day because you have no license and no vehicle.
York police say they're arresting 20 to 30 people a week for impaired driving. They say on top of losing your license, they'll also be releasing the names of impaired drivers online. They're hoping the video will be a talking piece on New Year's Eve, so people think twice before getting behind the wheel. Toronto police have charged a teen in connection with a shooting near Jane and Finch yesterday. They say a 17-year-old boy was walking in the area when another male got out of a car and opened fire. The 17-year-old allegedly fired back but was hit. He was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. After that, police executed a search warrant nearby and found a loaded handgun. The teen now faces 5 charges, including possessing a firearm obtained by crime. A man in his 20s was sent to hospital in life-threatening condition today after he was hit by a car near Eglinton Avenue and Danforth Road.
When I came in, I saw 2 guys on the floor, one with a bloody face, and on the other one, the paramedics were trying to get him back, and then and that's all I saw, and they took them away.
Police say the collision happened just before 4 p.m. Paramedics say the man sent to hospital no longer has life-threatening injuries. One other male pedestrian and a female passenger in a car were also not injured, but not seriously. Police cleared the intersection earlier this evening. As we say goodbye to the Metro Pass in a few days, some people with developmental disabilities are finding it hard to make the transition to Presto. Our Farah Morale spoke to some people struggling on the transit system.
Hi, Grant. How are you? Come on, let's go. Are you ready to go?
Twice a week, Grant Cotterbash takes this bus to go visit his parents. He's high-functioning and fairly independent, but suffers from a developmental disability. An incident on a bus last month has now left him anxious about traveling.
I'm just gonna go have a cup of coffee at the Richmond Garden, second cup that day, I remember. And I got on the bus and the guy says, oh, I swiped my Presto card, there's no money.
And what did the bus driver tell you when you tapped your card?
You have to please get off the bus. You need to put money in your Presto card.
Did you tell him that you were special needs?
I told him all that.
And what did he say?
No, he didn't say anything after that.
How did that make you feel?
Not too good.
Cotterbash, who had no money in his wallet at the time, says he asked a stranger to pay his fare. She agreed, and he was able to stay on.
I was upset about it.
The problem is, his sister says, he did have money on his card at the time. She knows because she loaded it herself.
It's ridiculous because he has anxiety. Now he's worried about every time he gets on the bus if there's enough. And even today, before we sat down here, the first thing out of his mouth is, can you put $10 more on my Presto card because I may be out. I'm down to $24.
We would really encourage our operators not to kick anyone off a bus if the card is declined.
The TTC admits there are glitches where sometimes a card with money on it is tapped and doesn't work.
But we've been working with Presto and our Fairgate manufacturer to ensure that this issue is rectified.
Community Living Toronto offers support for people with developmental disabilities. It says it hears stories similar to Grant's.
So this transition to the Presto card, what are some of the concerns you've heard from people that do have developmental disabilities?
The concerns that I've heard from people is the challenges with stations where there aren't attendants. So when they do run into trouble, what do they do? How do they get help? And where do they go? The other challenges that a lot have found is using the technology, and that's a learning curve.
Every subway station has a place for you to tap your Presto card.
The TTC has now partnered with Community Living to launch an educational program aimed at helping people get around and problem solve.
It really works with the individuals to make sure that they do understand the change, they understand the differences, and more importantly, they know how to problem solve and how to ask for help.
You're going to take the 20 grand?
Yes, it goes on my Presto card.
For now, Shelley says the only thing she can do is make sure her brother always has money on his card and hope if another glitch happens, a driver will have more compassion. Farah Morelli, CBC News, Toronto.
Janine Bejnath-Rodino joins us now for a first look at our forecast. The weather was quite moody today. My favorite mood was around 2 p.m. when it was sunny briefly and also so warm.
That's right. 12 degrees was the high today. Can you believe that's like 13 degrees warmer than seasonal for this time of year? Usually we're hovering around -1. Well, this is going to be fairly short-lived, especially when we head into the evening. We're going to be dropping. Here's a look at what's ahead. That system further to the east now, that's what ushered in the warmer, milder air. But now as that system moves further to the east, well, we're going to get more of a northwesterly flow as we head into the overnight, and that's going to cool us down. -3 for the overnight, partly cloudy skies, and then the potential of seeing some flurries develop after midnight, tapering off by the morning. And then tomorrow afternoon, we're warming up to only -2 degrees.
Quite a difference from today. Thanks, Janine.
You're welcome.
A Brampton mom gave a very important gift in September of last year, her son's heart. Sharon Vandrisch's son, Kieran Reed, was declared brain dead after an accidental opioid overdose. She had the option to start exchanging letters with the recipient, and they've both expressed their interest and desire to meet. But Ontario law requires organ donations be strictly confidential. Their letters are filtered through an organization that strips any identifying information. Vandrisch posted about her experience on Reddit, and I spoke with her earlier this evening.
It's pretty powerful to get these letters and emotional.
And so how did the correspondence start between you and the man who received his heart?
Well, after 6 months, the Gift of Life gives you the permission to start the correspondence. And I started with the heart because it just seemed the right place to start. And I was really surprised to get a letter back right away within like a month. It's a roller coaster of emotion because you want to know that that person's okay. You want to know that, I guess, again, in a corny way, that your son's memory lives on in someone else, and that live writing of a letter and getting it just validates that, that it does.
What do you hope comes from this? Do you want this to start a conversation? Obviously, this can't be the first time that, a donor and a recipient, those families want to meet.
I think awareness was my initial desire out of what came out of it. And I even talked to the Gift of Life and I said, do it double blind. Ask me, in another year if I still want to. Don't tell me what he's said, but if we've both said yes, I don't understand why you would want to prevent that.
I guess what kind of healing or solace do you think it would bring you to meet this man?
I think just comfort. I'm not expecting, I don't think my son is alive in him or anything like that. I just think it would close the loop on this whole process and maybe continue to support healing, which is as a journey. It's not something that you get over. You don't get over losing a child. You live through it. I think I said it's a very difficult journey. I felt something was missing in our place, so I started adding plants in our place, and my son, who I live with, said, "Dad, what's going on? Did you get a gardener's heart or something?" And I had told him that my son was an avid gardener. So he said, I cried like a baby. Man, so much about him is me. And it just gave me comfort that, I don't know, somehow it's just continuing to live on.
In a statement to CBC Toronto, the Trillium Gift of Life Network said, personal information is protected to safeguard both the donors' families and recipients, ensuring that neither is subject to an undesired relationship. Adding, organ and tissue donation is an emotional process, and the feelings of both donor families and recipients are difficult to predict or assume. A Peterborough man fought for years to adopt a child, but persistent homophobia caused many roadblocks for him and his husband. Years later, he's written a book about becoming the first gay couple in Canada to legally co-adopt a child. Their story coming up. More charges today for the man accused in a string of sexual assault cases near York University. A sixth woman has come forward who says she was walking near the school when someone came up behind her, attacked her, and sexually assaulted her. Our Greg Ross has more.
This latest victim to come forward with allegations of sexual assault is a 23-year-old woman who told police that it happened in this area near Keele Street and Four Winds Drive on December 19th. The woman claims that she was walking in this area at about 7:30 in the evening. This is a very busy area. As you can see, we have the Finch West subway station behind us. There are several apartment buildings in this area. There's a townhouse complex. And of course, York University is very close to here as well. This is the sixth woman to come forward with these kinds of allegations. 5 of them were women in their 20s, and there was also a 19-year-old woman. In one of the cases, the victim said that she was knocked unconscious and then sexually assaulted. On Christmas Eve, police announced that they had arrested 20-year-old Inzaghi Regis, who is now facing a number of charges, including 3 counts of sexual assault with a weapon, 2 counts of sexual assault, 2 counts of choking, 2 counts of threatening death, and assault causing bodily harm. I spoke with several residents in this area today. Here's what they had to say.
Lady's supposed to walk freely and not fretting about nothing.
I'm often looking around, like my peripherals. I walk up this way instead of the way through the buildings now. It is alarming, yeah. Just have to be careful, I guess. It's unfortunate that it has to happen, and it falls on women to protect themselves.
I take self-defense classes, so I feel very confident when I do walk around. But I have a little sister, and I feel nervous for her. So I'm gonna have to get her in more classes, I guess.
Police are warning people in this area to be vigilant and to be aware of their surroundings. They're also concerned that there may be more victims out there who have not come forward, and they're asking anybody who may have any information about this suspect to come forward as well. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Police in Milton are looking for 3 suspects who broke into a home overnight and stole a large sum of money. It happened around 4 this morning on Pearl Street at this home. The suspects had their faces covered and fled the area on foot. And according to police, one of the suspects had a gun. No one was injured in the robbery. One of the fathers of the first gay couple in Canada to legally co-adopt a child has written a book about the experience. Peterborough's David McKinstry fought for years to adopt a child. He even won his fight in court, but his family's fight with homophobia in the community lasted much longer. Today, he was on Metro Morning with guest host Michael Serapio talking about his new book, Rebel Dad.
I had people, licensed social workers, asking me if I was, you want to adopt a little boy? Are you trying to home grow your own play toy? Those were some of the questions that we had that we encountered, and again, the indignity of those questions at a time when there were so many children needing homes.
And the homophobia embedded in that question.
Oh.
This idea that if you're gay, you're necessarily a pedophile, which is far from true.
Well, it's not. As we all know, 97% of pedophiles are heterosexual men who know their victims. So it was crude comments to make back then. I went to India in 1998 to meet up with the 18 approved orphanages in Delhi that Canada would allow adoptions to occur with. And on the 18th orphanage that I met, Mohini Raghunath, who was the orphanage director, and she looked into my eyes after an hour and she said, "Go home, wait for my call, and I will find you a son." And 3 months later, to the day, she called me and she said, "We have a little boy. He was found clutching the corpse of his mother in a back alley. If you want him, he's yours." And she didn't have to ask twice. We got a call from the Children's Wish Foundation one Friday afternoon in August of 1998 asking if we had a room. And we had just had a cancellation that morning, and they said, "We have a woman at the airport. The American authorities will not allow her to fly over American airspace because she has AIDS." And they were trying to send her for one last holiday to Disneyland with her 4-year-old son. So we said, "Send her up. She can have the room." So she arrived, and that evening we're sitting around the table. There must have been 25 people, many of them having been there before, saying, "How's the adoption with Nicholas going?" And she later asked me, "So you're adopting from India. Aren't you afraid of leprosy or AIDS?" And I said, "Not really. He might as well have our blood in his veins." And the next morning, over coffee, she grabbed my arm and she said, "I wasn't able to sleep last night. I now know why God didn't let me get on that airplane. I was meant to come here and ask you and Michael to adopt my son and make him a little brother to your boy in India. Will you take my son?" And she didn't have to ask twice. When you put that child in your arms, it doesn't matter by what womb it was born. That child is your child.
His 2 sons are now in their 20s, and he's hoping his book will encourage others to consider adoption. After the break, we'll take a look at one of the largest collections of Sherlock Holmes memorabilia right here in the city. Stay with us.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
If you're looking for some reading inspiration over the holidays, you can now hit a special room at the Toronto Public Library, home to one of the largest collections of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's books and memorabilia.
Was designed in 2014, and it is supposed to be reminiscent of Sherlock Holmes's study. We have approximately 11,000 books, 200 manuscripts, and 15,000 collectibles in our collection.
The room is tucked away on the 5th floor. The collection started when the library purchased 500 books from a private collector in 1969 who loved Doyle's work, including his most popular character, Sherlock Holmes. The collection also has the very first Sherlock Holmes book called A Study in Scarlet. Meteorologist Janine Bejnath-Rodino is back with our extended forecast. And I know on Friday, everyone's wondering what the weekend is going to look like. It doesn't look like that 12 degrees will continue. That's okay, though.
No, absolutely short-lived. You're going to need the winter jacket back, the toques, the wind chill. It's going to feel really cold, and I'll let you know how cold. For overnight tonight for southwestern Ontario, we're going down to -2, with the wind chill feeling closer to -10, winds out of the southwest at 30 kilometers per hour, gusting to 50. And then for tomorrow afternoon, we're only warming up to about -1 under partly cloudy skies. As we head towards the Golden Horseshoe for the overnight tonight, -3 is what we can expect to dip down to. But again, feeling closer to -10 with those wind chills. The potential of seeing some flurries move through after midnight and then tapering off by the morning hours. And then tomorrow afternoon, fairly just a mix of sun and cloud. And then we'll see some sunny breaks for a little while. -2 degrees, feeling closer to -10 for tomorrow. And we are looking at that system that moved through yesterday and into today, bringing in the warm air. It's further east, and the back end of that system will now usher in some northwesterly winds, the potential of seeing some light lake effect develop for southwestern Ontario, but nothing accumulating. So that's why we could potentially see some light flurries for the overnight tonight and for early tomorrow morning. As we head into Saturday afternoon, though, it's looking like partly cloudy, -2, dipping down to -10 for the overnight. That's closer to seasonal for this time of year. Sunday, 0 degrees, and that's going to be our drier day because come Monday, well, we can get back into the precipitation, 40% chance, 2 degrees for the high. And Tuesday, Happy New Year's, 1 degrees, and the chance of flurries will return.
Thanks for that, Janine. I'll have to put my spring jacket back in my closet.
That's right. You're welcome.
The Daily Bread Food Bank held its last food sort of the year today as it continues to appeal for donations. About 500 volunteers showed up to give some of their holiday time to those in need. With just 3 days left in the year, the Daily Bread says it's falling short of its fundraising goals.
We have almost hit the food goal for the year. The fundraising goal, we're not quite there yet. We're about 75% of our way to a $4 million annual holiday drive. But I have deep faith and confidence in the love and the care that Torontonians have of their fellow citizens.
Daily Bread says cash donations can actually help the food bank buy more food cheaper because it can buy wholesale. CBC Sounds of the Season is all about helping out local food banks, and it continues until the end of the month. You can donate in person here at the CBC or online, cbc.ca/SOTS. Stay with us. We'll be right back. It's been a tumultuous 12 months for Toronto City Council. And once again, next week, Mayor John Tory will lead the city into another year. We asked him for his New Year's wish for Toronto.
I think we've just got to keep reminding ourselves that we mustn't let ourselves drift in the direction of, cities that have become big and rich and powerful, but really are not the kind of place to live that we would pride ourselves on the most. And I think that's very basic human behavior. What is it we're told when we're kids? The golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And if people just followed that every day, put their behavior through that lens, I think that would make a bigger difference than all the government programs you could muster.
Hamilton police shared their top 10 non-emergency 911 calls from this year, reminding residents these are not appropriate times to phone them. A few examples: reporting a hacked Facebook account, assault by a humping dog, asking if the beer store is open, a noise coming from a light bulb, and cold McDonald's food. In all, there were almost 200,000 911 calls in Hamilton this year, and 1/3 of them were non-emergencies. And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks for watching. I'll have your weekend news tomorrow at 6. Good night.